Good evening. Welcome to the National News Broadcast. I'm Kasuni Badachandra.
Good evening. I'm Lakshit Singha. To start off, let's take a quick look at the top stories for tonight.
The imposed police curfew will be effective until 6 a.m. on Monday. 20 individuals arrested for violating the curfew. More new measures to control the coronavirus. Foreigners in the country have been banned from touring. The Premier says at this juncture, all decisions are being taken for the protection of the people and the population of children. The number of corona-infected patients in the country reaches 70. The worldwide corona death toll surpasses 10,000. The British monarch enters into self-quarantine.
Moving on to those and other stories in detail. Police curfew has been imposed throughout the country with effect from 6 p.m. today until 6 a.m. Monday. The police headquarters states, during the period in which curfew has been imposed, all persons need to remain in their respective homes. When curfew has been imposed, those attending essential services and media personnel can use their official identity card as a pass. Passengers heading to the Katnayake airport can produce their flight ticket as a curfew pass. DIG Ajit Rohana says legal action will be taken against those who violate the imposed curfew. DIG Ajit Rohana says it is not sufficient to only refrain from walking on the streets. It is necessary for residents of nearby houses not to gather together. The DIG calls for everyone to be within their own homes. He further stated if any person has been advised to undergo self-quarantine, such a person should separate himself from the rest of the family members. The DIG warned that they hope to strictly enforce the law against those who violate quarantine laws. He also calls on the citizens to respect the quarantine process and the curfew and requests for persons to be in isolation as much as possible.
ඇදිරි නීතිය තිබුණයි කියලා ගම්වල එකතු වෙන්න යන්න එපා. යාබද නිවෙස්වල එකතු වෙන්න එපා. සෑම විටම හුදේකලාව ජීවත් වෙන්න උත්සාහ කරන්න. මේ තත්ත්වය පහව යනතුරු ඒ ආයාචනය අපේ. නමුත් මේ ආයාචනයට අහුම්කම් දුන්නේ නැත්නම් නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා. ඒ නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමේදී අපි කිසිම ආකාරයක ලිහිල් බවක් දක්වන්නේ නැහැ.
The Navy has apprehended 20 individuals who violated the imposed curfew in the Purtlam and Negamba Kochikade police divisions. The group includes 3 women and 3 girl children. The arrestees have been handed over to the Kalpitia police. The Navy states the group had attempted to flee to Mana along the Purtlam sea routes, disregarding the curfew. As curfew was imposed, people were seen purchasing essential goods at trade stores. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says at this juncture, all decisions are being taken to protect the people and the children of the country. The Premier says as the government has the capacity to provide for all day-to-day needs, there is no need to panic. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa says all steps have been taken to control the situation, and from the moment the disease began spreading in the country, the government was vigilant. Therefore, it was possible to get down students who were stranded in the Wuhan province in China. The Premier stated all preparations have been made to bring down those who left the country on pilgrimages to Dambadeva. The Premier pointed out steps were taken to quarantine infected persons and those who have interacted with patients. The Premier also noted, as a precautionary measure on behalf of the children, steps were taken to grant holidays for schools and universities. The Premier said flights were systematically restricted and the airport has now been closed. Prime Minister Rajapaksa pointed out even in the fight against terrorism, curfew was not imposed throughout the country. However, due to the responsible behavior of certain individuals, such a step had to be taken. The Premier also stated the government is able to make available all essential goods, including food items. Therefore, there is no need to panic. The government calls on the public not to create undue fear as there is no shortage of essential food items and other commodities. The government states there is absolutely no necessity to rush in a manner in which disease can spread to hurriedly purchase goods, as sufficient stocks of essential food items and other commodities are available. The government has launched a special program to sell essential food items through mobile sales vehicles that will go from door to door when curfew is imposed in certain areas. Meanwhile, a special plan is underway upon discussions with the governors, the district secretaries and agrarian organizations to distribute essential food items including vegetables. The government reiterates as sufficient stocks are available, it is possible to have goods available for purchase without shortage.
The death toll in Italy from the coronavirus overtook China yesterday after deaths in the country rose by 427 in the day, recording at least 3,405 deaths. China has recorded 3,248 deaths since early January. Meanwhile, the coronavirus death toll has topped 10,000 worldwide, doubling in 1 week as the crisis continues to escalate in Europe. More than 245,000 cases of the coronavirus have been reported across the globe, soaring from the 100,000 reported cases just 2 weeks ago. The coronavirus, or COVID-19, has affected 182 countries and territories around the world at present.
The death toll from the coronavirus in Italy on Thursday overtook that of China, where the virus first emerged, making Italy's outbreak the deadliest in the world and now the epicenter of the pandemic, as hospitals said they were being overwhelmed and the government prepared to prolong emergency lockdown measures.
Sono ancora Daniela da Milano.
One nurse at a hospital in Milan told Reuters on Thursday that the virus had pushed health workers to their limit.
Lavoriamo tutti.
We're working in a state of very high stress and tension. Psychological tension has gone through the roof. Unfortunately, we can't contain the situation in Lombardy. There's a high level of contagion, and we're not even counting the dead anymore.
Lombardy, the heavily populated area around the financial capital of Milan, has been Italy's worst affected region.
Guardate le notizie che arrivano dall'Italia.
Look at the news that's coming out of Italy and take note of what the situation really is like. It's unimaginable.
Underscoring the scale of the drama in Italy, soldiers transported bodies overnight from the town of Bergamo, northeast of Milan, whose cemetery has been overwhelmed. An army spokesman said 15 trucks and 50 soldiers had been deployed to move coffins to neighboring provinces. A total of 427 deaths were registered in Italy over the past 24 hours, bringing the total nationwide tally to more than 3,400 in a country of roughly 60 million. In China, the death toll reached 3,245 in a country of more than 1 billion. China on Thursday also reported no new domestic transmissions of the virus for the first time and has focused efforts to stop the spread on incoming travelers, amid concern about a second wave of infections from abroad. Italy has proportionately more elderly people than China. The older population, who are particularly vulnerable to the virus, is seen as a major factor for Italy's high number of fatalities. U.S. health experts fear the country is on a similar trajectory as Italy. Nearly 9,000 cases of the coronavirus have been reported in the United States. Health officials said more than 3,000 of them are in New York. Later on Thursday, the U.S. State Department raised its travel alert to the highest level yet for the entire world, urging Americans not to go anywhere overseas, and for those, quote, in countries where commercial departure options remain available, U.S. citizens who live in the United States should arrange for immediate return to the United States unless they are prepared to remain abroad for an indefinite period.
And in other news from Italy, Northern Italy has one of the best public health systems in the Western world, yet the coronavirus outbreak in the country has pushed it to the breaking point. Footage shot inside Ogliopo Hospital in Italy shows the massive strain healthcare facilities face from the coronavirus pandemic.
The casualties of a war against an invisible enemy. Footage shot inside Ogliopo Hospital in Cremona, Italy on Thursday shows the strain at the front line of the battle. A hospital normally containing 50 beds now housing 120. And that's still not enough. The sound of ventilators feeding oxygen into lungs are heard as patients lie immobile on their beds. Some are able to sit up and signal to nursing staff behind masks. Others lie on their fronts connected to machines, unable to breathe any other way. Italy recorded the largest ever one-day increase in coronavirus deaths on Wednesday, as the total rose by 475 to almost 3,000. It is expected to surpass China's own death count if the situation remains unchanged. With cases still rising, the government is considering further restrictions on the limited amount of outdoor movement currently permitted.
Meanwhile, in the face of the coronavirus outbreak, 20,000 British troops have been put on standby. Queen Elizabeth has left and dozens of London Underground stations have been closed.
20,000 military personnel on standby and dozens of underground train stations closed. This is the new reality across London as the coronavirus crisis shuts swathes of the economy. Queen Elizabeth has left the city for Windsor Castle, and against a background of panic buying in supermarkets and the biggest fall in sterling for decades, the British government moved to quash rumours that travel in and out of London would be restricted. A spokesman for Prime Minister Boris Johnson said there's zero prospect of any restriction being placed on travelling in or out of the capital. He added there were no plans to use the armed forces to maintain law and order, though the government put military reservists on formal notification. An industry source said supermarkets were expecting police support amid fears that London was facing a virtual shutdown. After ordering the closure of schools, Johnson on Wednesday said the government was ruling nothing out when asked whether he'd bring in measures to lock down London. He's asked the government to come up with plans for a so-called lockdown, which would see businesses closed, transport services reduced, gatherings limited and more stringent controls imposed on the city.
March and April are the busiest months for tourism in Norway, which is normally popular with skiers and hikers. However, the tourists are not visiting this year due to the coronavirus outbreak, and small businesses are suffering.
High above the Arctic Circle in northern Norway, a peaceful haven for tourists looking for a secluded escape. But their tourists aren't coming this year. Travel as an industry is suffering from the coronavirus worldwide, and in the small town of Lingen, the crisis is existential. Tour group managers like Mads Kvien face a questionable future.
We're now in the middle of one of the most important seasons here in Lingen, the ski season, and when we don't know what's happening in the future and how we can plan for it, there's a lot of insecurity, and that doesn't feel good.
In a normal year, thousands descend on Lingen to hike and ski. March and April are normally the busiest months here and are vital to keep Lingen going. But just in the last week, almost all bookings have been cancelled.
Yeah, here we see all the red marks are all the cancellations for this week.
Henrika Longren has run the Magic Mountain Lodge for 10 years. But in just a few days, all her bookings for the next 2 months, that critical window, had been cancelled. She isn't sure the lodge can survive without government help.
So I have 2 small children that are home from school and the kindergarten, so I take care of them, and then I start to look at all the bills that are coming every month like normal, and talk to the bank and see what we can do.
The Norwegian government has announced measures it hopes will help industries the virus is hitting hard, like tourism. But it did not elaborate on any specifics. For now, Longren hopes the tourists come back by the end of winter, which lasts there until mid-May. Mountain guide Tatu Autio is also holding out. He says he plans to stay in Lingen even without the tourists, since it's not much better there than anywhere else. What's his plan until then, you might ask?
Ski as much as I can. Alone.
Quarantine medical observation is being carried out throughout the island in a bid to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus. The contribution of the public sector, the private sector and other organizations is being received to the maximum in these efforts. The Gore bus stand and railway station were disinfected today, together with other areas where crowds gather. Meanwhile, face masks were distributed free of charge in the Gore town. The Hatton railway station, at which a number of local and foreign tourists transit, was also disinfected. An initiative to disinfect state institutions in Vaunia was also carried out. Subsequent to the detection of a COVID-19 infected patient in the Mirahavatta area of Välimäärä, the police have taken steps to halt day-to-day activities in the Välimäärä area and disperse crowds. Thereby, all trading at the Välimäärä weekly fair was stopped this morning. The corona treatment unit of the Välikanda Base Hospital, which was prepared within 72 hours, was declared open last night. The unit is equipped to treat 50 patients in one batch. The new treatment unit has been prepared under the supervision of the Director General of Healthcare Services and the Army Commander, and upon the instructions of the President. The unit consists of an ICU, whilst all required facilities for treatment to be administered have been provided. Director of the Polonnaruwa General Hospital, Sampathindi Kumar, says treatment will commence from today.
Commander of Sri Lanka Army Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva emphasizes that all should support the measures taken towards the prevention of the spread of COVID-19 virus. Sri Lanka Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva said that according to reports, some people are still engaging in leisure travels within the country. He said that the prime responsibility of the government headed by the President has been the protection of the citizens of the country. Accordingly, the police curfew was imposed. He said that the President and all the other relevant authorities have committed in preventing the spread of this disease, and for this task the support of the country's people is essential. He added that the nation can overcome this challenge if the people abide to the instructions of the health authorities and self-quarantine as advised. In view of the present situation, the government has decided to impose a ban on all trips, pilgrimages and tours, and especially the tours of foreign groups. The main objective of this measure is to make public life safe. The purpose behind prohibiting trips is to prevent crowds from gathering. Thereby, pilgrimages, trips and the tours of foreigners who are currently in the island have been banned with immediate effect. The President's Media Division issuing a release this evening states President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who is studying the present situation constantly, provides frequent instructions to the relevant officials on the future steps to be taken. The person-to-person distance that needs to be maintained at places where crowds gather is 1 meter, and this needs to be adhered to in bus and train services as well. Thereby, bus and train services are permitted to carry half of the passenger load that can be usually transported. Steps have been taken to distribute essential food items and other goods throughout the island without shortage. Trade institutions including Satosa have advised the government on distributing goods in a manner in which the public is not inconvenienced. Public and private sector institutions are able to devise a most suitable distance-maintaining communication method. At court cases, steps need to be taken to minimize crowds from gathering. The President established the task force on the prevention of the coronavirus on the 26th of February. Sri Lanka is the first country that established such a task force. The President carries out frequent discussions with the members of the task force and the health officials. 19 fully equipped hospitals have been prepared to treat corona-infected patients. The National Operations Centre on the coronavirus functions from number 1090 Sri Jayawardhanapura Road, Rajagiriya. The President calls on all parties not to seek petty political objectives in the context of the present situation faced by the country. The President says decisions need to be taken upon practical study, thereby preventing the economy and day-to-day public life coming to a standstill. Certain individuals spread disinformation based on rumors through social media. The release further states such individuals have been identified and will be dealt with by the law. Meanwhile, 24 hospital directors who are directly involved in the prevention of the coronavirus met with Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi for a discussion today. The discussion took place at the auditorium of the National Blood Transfusion Centre at Narahempita. The objective of the discussion was to raise awareness on how hospital services need to be maintained to prevent the further spread of the coronavirus in future. The issues faced by the doctors and the health staff when treating corona-infected patients and solutions to these issues were also negotiated. The hospital directors were educated on instant measures that need to be taken and on the directives to be followed on controlling the disease. The health minister ordered for diagnostic equipment relevant to detect this disease to be dispatched to the relevant hospitals. The health minister instructed the ministry secretary to grant approval and financial allocations for instant purchases. While stating that there is the possibility of the disease spreading within the country, Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi said persons throughout society who have not had contact with infected persons have not contracted the disease so far. The minister says they are acting with utmost responsibility in the efforts taken by the task force on the prevention of the coronavirus, whilst the army, the police and the intelligence units continue to take measures, especially under the direct mediation of the President and the Prime Minister.
The Ministry of Foreign Relations states a plan is currently underway to repatriate foreigners who have arrived in Sri Lanka under travel law other visas and are currently stranded. In addition, a number of countries have expressed willingness to extend the short-term visas of Sri Lankans currently overseas. Modalities to facilitate these movements were discussed today at a meeting chaired by Secretary of Foreign Relations Ravinatha Arya-Singha. The meeting was attended by the ambassadors representing the Western Hemisphere, as well as representatives from relevant state institutions. During the meeting, the diplomats drew attention to the continuing difficulties faced by their nationals presently in the country. The Sri Lankan agencies emphasized that public measures would be taken to ensure Sri Lanka's traditional hospitality to foreign nationals in these difficult circumstances. Special telephone lines have been set up to ensure that such instances will be reported promptly and dealt with. Special contact facilities have also been provided to those foreign nationals who are being moved to the quarantine centres. Following the appeal made by Sri Lanka earlier this week, the representatives of several governments informed that they had taken steps to extend visas of Sri Lankans abroad whose visas would have or will expire shortly. The Foreign Ministry was assured by other countries that its request was receiving the highest consideration in other capitals. More news on the other side of this break.
Welcome back. The number of corona-infected persons in the country has reached 70. 11 newly infected patients were detected, whilst medical investigations are underway into over 200 persons suspect to have contracted the virus.
අපගේ නිරෝධායන කඳවුරුවල සිටින ඉතාලියේ සිට පැමිණි තිදෙනෙක් ඒ වගේම තවත් කාන්තාවක් ඇය පාකිස්තානයේ සිට පැමිණි ශ්‍රී ලාංකික කාන්තාවක්. ඊයේ හවස් වන විට 66 දෙනෙක් මෙම
Health Minister Pavitra Vanyarachi said as of last evening 66 confirmed cases of the COVID-19 infection were detected, out of which 39 of them are imported cases. In addition, 25 of them have had close interactions with these 39 persons.
සංඛ්‍යාවකට මේ රෝගය වැළඳිලා නැහැ. කොරෝනා රෝගය මැඩලීමේ කාර්යසාධක බලකාය අතිගරු ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ සහ අගමැතිතුමාගේ උපදෙස් පරිදි මේ කරන කටයුතු වලදී අපි කියන්න ඕනි ඊටාම වගකීමකින් අපි කටයුතු කරගෙන යනවයි කියන එක.
After the first reported COVID-19 infected case, which was that of a Chinese lady, the next patient was reported on the 11th of this month. This patient had contracted the disease whilst in Sri Lanka. However, the majority of the infected patients reported so far have been among those arriving from Italy. Health authorities state 90% of them had arrived in the country after symptoms of the COVID-19 virus began to manifest whilst they were in Italy. The others began to show signs and symptoms with 24 hours after arriving in Sri Lanka. 81% of the corona-infected patients are male, and the largest group has been reported from the Gampaha district. The National Operations Centre on the Prevention of the Spread of the COVID-19 virus states currently 2,738 persons are undergoing quarantine medical observations at 17 quarantine centres in the country. The Rantabe National Cadets Training Centre has also been transformed into a quarantine centre at which 500 patients can be treated at a time. With the contribution of the Sri Lanka Air Force, the construction of a new ward complex in the premises of IDH Hospital has commenced. The Air Force headquarters state although it has been planned to complete construction work within 2 weeks, they intend to complete the work within 10 days. In addition, new quarantine centres in Palaviputhalam, Iranamadu Kirinochi and Palali Jaffna are being prepared with the contribution of the Air Force. The Corona Treatment Unit of the Valikanda Base Hospital, which was prepared within 72 hours, was declared open last night. The unit is equipped to treat 50 patients in one batch. The new treatment unit has been prepared under the supervision of the Director General of Health Services and the Army Commander and upon the instructions of the President. The unit consists of an ICU as well. Director of the Polonnaruwa General Hospital, Dr. Sampath Indika Kumara says, whilst all required facilities for treatment to be administered have been provided, treating patients will commence from today. Meanwhile, Army Commander Lieutenant General Shavendra Silva conducted an observational visit of this centre last night. The quarantine centre established affiliated to the Chilaur General Hospital was also declared open today. 97 pilgrims who had been stranded in India returned to the island this morning. They have been sent for quarantined medical observations. Sri Lankan Airlines states although curfew has been imposed until 6 a.m. on the 23rd of this month, passengers intending to leave the country are allowed to arrive at the airport. Such passengers can produce their air ticket and passport at checkpoints. The Postal Department states all postal operations have been suspended until further notice. The department states parcels received by foreign mail are being retained at the Central Mail Exchange and the distribution of these will recommence once the situation in the country becomes favourable. The payment of elders' allowance and allowances in the event of sicknesses has also been suspended. The Ministry of Roadways states although curfew has been imposed, vehicles which have permits can use the highways. Vehicles with permits, ambulances and vehicles operating for essential services can use the expressways in the same way in which permits are issued for ordinary roadways. 1,199 individuals in the Puttalam area who arrived from countries in which corona is spreading rapidly have reportedly not undergone quarantine medical observations and have headed for their homes. These individuals are reportedly from 16 divisional secretariat zones. Amongst the confirmed cases yesterday, the patient who underwent treatment at the Ragama Teaching Hospital has been hospitalized on the 16th of this month. Once it was confirmed that he had contracted the virus, the medical staff who attended to him were directed to self-quarantine.
ඒ සාදයේ සිටි එක් පුද්ගලයෙක් ඉතාලියෙන් පැමිණි පුද්ගලයෙක් දින කිහිපයකට පෙර COVID-19 රෝගියෙක් වශයෙන් හඳුනාගෙන තියෙනවා. එතකොට එසේ හඳුනාගෙන තිබියදී ඒ බව දැනගෙන මේ පුද්ගලයා සාමාන්‍ය වාට්ටුවකට ඇතුළු වෙලා අනිකුත් අයට මේ රෝගය බෝවන ආකාරයට කටයුතු කරලා තියෙනවා.
චේතනාන්විතවම ඔහු හෘද රෝගයකට ප්‍රතිකාර ගැනීමට යයි පවසමින් සාමාන්‍ය වාට්ටුවකට ඇතුළත් වුණා. මෙය ද්වේෂ සහගතව කරපු ක්‍රියාවක්. මෙම ක්‍රියාව නිසා සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම රෝගීන්ට ප්‍රතිකාර කරන්න හිටපු වෛද්‍ය කාර්ය මණ්ඩල ඒ වගේම රෝහලේ අනිකුත් සේවකයින්ගේ එම රාජකාරිය අඩපණ වෙලා තියෙනවා. කෙසේ වෙතත් අද දිනේදී ඔහුට එරෙහිව වත්තල මහේත්‍රාත් අධිකරණයට අපි නඩුවක් ඉදිරිපත් කරනු ලැබුවා. ඒ වගේම ඔහු සහ ඔහුට අනුබල දුන් අයටත් ඒ වගේම අනිත් පුද්ගලයින්ටත් එරෙහිව අපි නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනු ලබනවා.
An individual upon arrival from Italy was directed to the corona treatment unit at Kurunegala upon suspicion of contracting the virus. He had been undergoing self-quarantine over the past few days and yesterday, which was the 13th day, he had developed sudden fever. With the detection of a COVID-19 infected person in the Valimada area, the Valimada Medical Office of Health has taken steps to direct the villagers towards self-quarantine. 76 individuals of the Ambagamuwa Divisional Secretariat Zone have been mandated to undergo self-quarantine upon the orders of the Hatton Magistrates Court. They have reportedly arrived in the country from overseas. Around 60 individuals who had close interactions with the 3 COVID-19 infected patients detected in Ratnapura have been advised to undergo self-quarantine. Meanwhile, it was reported that a cycle race was held in the Dambulla area even as the gathering of crowds was prohibited. In the investigations that followed, the Dambulla mayor and another individual was arrested and produced before court.
Minister Dallas Alahaperuma requests media heads to contribute to enhance the education of children who are confined to their homes during school holidays. The minister says the objective should be to direct children to spend their time at home productively. The Ministry of Education has facilitated access to the website www.etaksalava.moe.gov.lk for children who would like to watch e-Taksala programs. Lessons pertaining to the syllabi from grade 1 to grade 5 are available in Sinhala and Tamil mediums, whilst lessons pertaining to the syllabi from grade 6 to 13 are available in Sinhala, Tamil and English. Minister Dallas Alahaperuma says since the situation is such that children cannot engage in sports activities and other outdoor activities such as environmental activities, it is needed to find ways to entertain children. The national television from yesterday commenced telecasting a series of live educational programs for the benefit of students who are spending their school holidays. The series has been named as edu.com. The first program was telecast from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. yesterday. The Educational Programs Division of Rupavahini is organising the series of programs under the theme Pasal Visha Nirdesha Saturen Igana Ganima, Happy Learning of the School Syllabus. Students can put forward their questions during these live 3-hour programs over the telephone number 011 2501 610. Foreign news on the other side of this break.